Right now, 2 hurricanes are brewing in the Gulf. As you all know, my studio is located down here, down deep, the deep, deep south. Down in the heart of Dixie. I'm not even sure if I can say that anymore. I know the Dixie Chicks took Dixie out of their name, so I might have to do that too. So deep in the heart of the Chicks. We'll just say that. Deep in the heart of the Chicks, we're down here. And 2 hurricanes are brewing in both. I checked yesterday. I don't know. I haven't checked today. But yesterday, both hurricanes were going on a direct path to Louisiana. And Louisiana, or as some would say, Louisiana, is going to get hit, or is projected to get hit, by a hurricane on like back-to-back days this week. It's like Tuesday and Wednesday they're getting a hurricane. They're going to get double dip. They're getting back-to-back. Buy one, get one free hurricanes. And this is also the 15-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. And for people in the Deep South, or just in the Gulf, Katrina was COVID before COVID was cool. Katrina was the most earth-rattling, earth-shattering event in history. And it changed the lives of everyone that lives on the Gulf. And honestly, even 15 years later, a lot of those people have not recovered. A lot of places haven't recovered. It's kind of wild. If you come down here anywhere on the stretch of the Gulf, not just in the heart of the Chicks, but if you go to Louisiana, or if you go to Florida, some parts of Alabama, and parts of Mississippi, there are huge open patches, huge open areas of lands that do not have houses, do not have buildings. And 15 years ago, or 15 years and a day ago, if you're listening on the Katrina anniversary, there were houses. There were bustling streets. There were restaurants. There were all kind of stuff. And it just never rebuilt. And it's almost like scars. It's almost like scars on our land, sure, but also on our lives. A lot of people have a lot of trouble with that down here. I don't think it was in a weird time where everything was so new. It was 2005, so we didn't have the social media like we do now. We don't have the 24-hour news cycle like we do now, and I think a lot of people had to internalize a lot of things with Katrina. A lot of people had to internalize what the hell they were seeing. They had to internalize their entire city, their entire region, their entire life be completely swept away. I remember, I was not planning on talking about Katrina on this, but I remember whenever my family was dealing with Katrina, a bunch of my family went to Destin, Florida. And I get them mixed up now, but we went to Destin and Orange Beach. And I think we went to Destin first and then went to Orange Beach after. But we were in Destin when Katrina hit. And it was like me, my aunt, my mom, my sister, my cousins, my grandparents. My grandparents were supposed to stay. And they were a last second decision to go. And their house got like 4 feet in Hurricane Camille, and they weren't that worried about it. I had helped board up their house earlier in the day, whatever. And I remember, I'll never forget, we were sitting at an Outback. We were sitting at an Outback steakhouse. This is after Katrina had already hit. And we were eating or whatever. And my dad had stayed back. He had stayed at my house, just kind of watching the house. And our house got no water in Camille, and we got over 10 feet in Katrina. And he was back, and so, they would call him and get kind of notices of how everything was going, and, things were pretty touch and go. You couldn't really get everywhere after the storm. No one really knew what was going on. There was no such thing as an iPhone. There was no such thing as, Twitter or whatever. So he was only going by what he saw, because there was no TV. There was no way for him to know what the scope of the damage was. So every once in a while he would go and drive. Well, we didn't have cars, so he would go and walk through town or, whatever, get a bike or something and go around. So eventually he made it down to where my grandparents' house was, which is called The Point. The Point was the region of the city. And it was a big time area. It was casinos down there. There was a ton of houses, churches, businesses. It was a hustling, bustling little area. Place that I grew up in, really, because my grandparents were there and I stayed there a lot. Anyways, my dad called back, and I will never forget when he called and we were sitting there. I mean, it's so crazy because it was. I mean, I can see the restaurant. I can see inside the restaurant. And he called, and they asked, how the house was. And he responded, "Oh, there's nothing." And everyone was so shocked at what that meant. They're like, "What do you mean there's nothing?" And he was like, "There's nothing. There is a slab." So you're saying the house is gone. And he said, "I'm not saying the house is gone. I'm saying the whole point is gone." And none of us, again, could even fathom that a hurricane could destroy an entire area. But it did. And I'll put it to you like this. It really was like the entire area was wiped out. If you go back now, there are 0 houses down there. There are 0 businesses down there. It is just slabs. 15 years later, my grandparents' house, where it was, is currently, 15 years later, a slab. Their neighbor's house is 15 years later a slab. Across the street was 2 houses. There are 2 slabs. There are no houses down there. And it's kind of crazy. But anyways, I don't know how we got on that for a second, but Katrina's 15-year anniversary is coming up, and the 2 storms going to the Gulf are going to Louisiana, and we're supposed to be taking some rain. So T's and P's, thoughts and prayers for the South, and that it's just a couple, relatively weak hurricanes. The reason I brought the whole thing up, I'm not sure how I got lost in the Katrina thing. Bear with me again. We are creeping up to midnight, so my normal rambling brain may ramble even further. There is no time. I'm going to try and stay on track here, but baby, there's no promises with that. But the reason I even said that is that imagine, I want you to John Lennon for a second here. Imagine if we had a storm that was even just catastrophic. Let's not say like Katrina. Let's not say like, once in a lifetime. Let's just say bad. Catastrophic, destroys houses, destroys businesses, whatever. Horrible flooding. Let's just say we had that. And by we, I mean anyone. Whether it's Louisiana or Mississippi or Alabama, Texas. In this climate of where humanity is hanging on to the very edge, imagine if we just got blasted with a storm. I wonder what would happen. I wonder at that point, what exactly do you do? How do you build back? And just like with Katrina, where there's some places 15 years later that are not built back. Because the obvious idea is, well, you just build back. But I can tell you firsthand, that ain't always how it is. And in this climate of all of this, I wonder if some cities would just go away. If, just making this up, but if like Lafayette, Louisiana, got hit with this storm and they just got wiped out. In this climate, I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of went away and people just moved. People are just like, I can't do this. Not in this economic situation. Not with everything else. I can't do it. And like actual places just went away. So long story to get to a short story. A couple hurricanes in the Gulf. That's what's going on down here. I haven't taken any precautions. We're supposed to get some real bad rain middle of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. But I haven't taken any precautions at the studio. As it gets closer, I'll monitor, and we may, have to do some stuff at the studio. If that's the case, Thursday's podcast could be in flux.